I'm an old white guy. I'm the audience.
Matt, we are the audience. We are also the podcasters on the Bill Simmons Podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Matt.
Matt, welcome back. How's the wife?
She's better. Thank you.
There were 3 podcasts last week, Matt. That's a 50% increase over what the recent trend of 2 podcasts per week has been.
Yes.
The first one, the post-mortem on the Super Bowl with just Cousin Sal, but no gambling, 1 hour, 15 minutes, and 2 seconds. The second one involved Brian Koppelman, then Wesley Morris, then Claire Danes out of nowhere.
Yes.
1 hour, 40 minutes, and 8 seconds. And then finally, just Ryan Russillo on my favorite type of terrible ringer podcast, a live video show at the trade deadline, which then is fashioned into an audio-only podcast. It was
you
terrible.
Could call it that.
I'll call it what I like, because it's the Bill Simmons podcast.
Here we go.
Fecal mishap is much more fun, actually.
Yeah.
And much more realistic.
Two seconds into the first one of last week, Bill Simmons called the Bill Simmons podcast this.
BS podcast.
Pearl Jam, 145.
Prompt.
At 3 minutes and 1 second, sounds like he said, ooth.
Ooh.
So
I would have accepted oof, but not ooth.
Mostly because that's not any sort of word or sound anyone makes.
At 4 minutes and 17 seconds, Bill's childlike speech impediment, once again.
They're not running when they should have won.
I like this one because it was a Bill fuck-up that worked.
Because they should have won?
Yeah, if they had
WON?
run. Yeah.
Don't defend him.
I just thought it was ironic.
At 5:43, is he talking about a vein or possibly artery in the neck, or a man who is able to keep a number of balls in the air at the same time?
If you're really going for the jugglers,
When it's 4th down and you're trying to win the game, but there's a guy on the sideline distracting you by juggling, you got to go for him.
At 6 minutes and 25 seconds,
Pats came down from 10 same way.
they came back, Matt. They came back
No.
from 10.
They came down from 10, same way.
They didn't actually come down from anything. They were behind. They were never on top.
If anything, they went up.
At 9:17, to sum up a discussion Bill has had about the number of teams who won the Super Bowl after trailing by 10 or more points in the playoffs, Bill tries to say it was 5 out of 53
So now we're talking 5 out of 53,
after tonight.
and the Chiefs became the 5th team to do it.
That is after Super Bowl 54. Well, if the Chiefs became the 5th, it was 5 out of 54.
Math.
At 10:19, when given the choice between 2 options, Bill chooses yes.
was that the second longest play from scrimmage at that point, or
Oh,
the
yeah.
longest for them?
Yeah.
Yes. It's like the Michael Scott quote, would you rather be feared or loved? The answer is both. He
I
wants
want-
people to fear how much they love him.
Something bizarre and unprecedented happened with momentum at 11:17.
At some point, I felt that momentum shifting.
How far did it shrift? Also, what is shrift?
Shifting.
At 11:28, a mysterious L appeared.
And then it came down to
It claimed down to. At 16:09, about who technically did what into whom.
and I was wondering if that happened tonight with Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan. They didn't technically have sex.
Andy and Kyle didn't technically
Right.
have sex. It's sort of the Bill Clinton,
Yes.
well, it depends what is.
I did not have sexual relations with that walrus coach. They didn't have figurative sex. They didn't have metaphorical sex. There was nothing romantic about a football
Well,
game.
it wasn't even like untechnical sex.
Right, yes. Yeah, it wasn't like they just sat next to each other on the bed playing with themselves. If anything else, they sat on the bed metaphorically playing against themselves. At 18:32, Matt, something that bothered me all week long, Bill's inability to say the word CACHE during paid ads.
Gunslinger's cachet.
CACHE is pronounced like this.
Cash.
Cash.
CACHET, on the other hand, is pronounced like this.
Cachet.
Cachet.
Also, it means a different thing.
Yeah, so if there had been the bounty hunters or the gunslingers seal used especially as a mark of official approval, or bounty hunters medicinal preparation for swallowing consisting of a case, usually of rice flour paste, enclosing a medicine, then it would be a cachet. At 20 minutes and 12 seconds.
Yeah. By the way, Terrell Suggs. Yeah, he came back again.
What about Terrell Suggs? I mean, maybe he's making some reference
again.
to a famous Terrell Suggs play. You feel like cluing the rest of us in, Bill? This is why you're not on the NBA Inside Stuff or whatever it's called anymore.
He did tell us, Chris, about how he was really good at certain things on NBA Inside Stuff.
What were they?
Opening the show and keeping everything together, but he couldn't throw to like highlights or do like 15-second clips.
At 22:36, Matt, Bill is complaining about a ref calling or not calling a delay of game. This is what he says.
He's trying to blow his whistle and fucks it up and doesn't blow the whistle.
I don't think he was trying to blow his whistle. I think he brought his whistle to his mouth, but I think if he had failed to blow the whistle, he would have thrown his hat or he would have thrown a flag or he would have done something to signal the play being dead. What he then goes on to say, however, is this.
He had premature whistle ejaculation.
You, perhaps more than I, am an expert in the arts of human coitus. But I think both of us have a pretty good idea about what premature ejaculation is.
I was wondering if you were going to say I was an expert in the art of premature ejaculation.
Broad strokes. But here's the deal.
Stroke.
If he fails to blow his whistle, it is not premature anything.
No.
It's more like delayed.
Yes, it would be like failed ejaculation.
At 24:58, does not understand corollary.
It's like the old John Elway corollary, right? Mm-hmm. You win that Super Bowl, and then it just completely changes the narrative for the rest of your life.
Corollary to what? It's the corollary to what? Now, Matt, this is not at 25:59 the first time Bill has used this particular turn of phrase, but he uses it again, and I don't think it's a real thing.
But then when you really get into nut crunching time,
now there is such a thing, at least according to the idioms by Free Dictionary, as nut cutting time.
Is that like about bulls?
It's the point in time in which extreme, drastic, or decisive action is required, which sounds similar to nut crunching time.
Yeah.
There is such a thing as nut crunch.
Is it a cereal?
Nut crunch, according to Urban Dictionary, describes the physical attributes and general persona of a motorcycle popo.
What?
I think this is a malapropism where he has managed to combine nut cutting time and nut crunch into nut crunching time. Second week in a row with some bizarre testicular torture. At 26:39, this is not how you use this cliche.
He's just going to rear his ugly head.
Mahomes rearing his ugly head. It can't be what he means.
How did this guy get $250 million? Jesus Christ, this guy is 100 millionaire. Bill went from being a millionaire to owning a baseball team kind of millionaire.
Well, at least an MLS team. Matt, according to the Collins Dictionary, if you say something unpleasant or embarrassing rears its ugly head or raises its ugly head, you mean that it occurs often after not occurring for some time. Bill thinks Mahomes is unpleasant, has not occurred for some amount of time, and then suddenly Patrick Mahomes occurred. At 27:25, Bill has to tell his producer to be ready to do his job.
I have a hot take. Kyle, get this ready. Mark this down.
Are you ready for what his hottest take was?
I'm ready.
Are we sure Pat Mahomes was the MVP of the Super Bowl?
We'll discuss in a moment. At 28:04, this is the most circular magic I have ever heard of.
You were pulling 7-yard runs out of 1-yard runs. You were pulling 4-yard runs out of 2-yard losses.
Despite my approval of the repeated use of pulling out, what he means is you are turning 1-yard runs into 7-yard runs.
Yeah.
But you're not pulling them out of them. Matt, remember how we were talking about the hottest take that Mahomes is not the MVP?
Super hot.
At 29:15, Bill concludes his thought.
I think I agree with you. I'm glad we talked this out.
What he's decided is, oh yeah, I didn't really mean it.
At 29:34, this appears to be a football-related comment, but it is like an Ouroboros trying to eat its own tail into infinity.
He was the one Chief who outkicked his own coverage the most in this game.
Of all the Chiefs who outkicked their own coverage, he outkicked it the most.
Makes no sense.
He is kicking and covering the kick, but he manages to outkick the coverage he is providing for the kick and therefore is unable to cover the kick?
Yes.
At 35:24, edit.
Most about this game. What do you have for the, we should talk about great calls.
Of course, there's no question. That is a bad edit. The register of his voice is completely different. It would be an impressive change if Bill was able to do that on the fly.
What I would suggest to his editor or producer or engineer is, number one, start with paying attention.
And Bill asked him to.
But that was a different comment. And then number two, just take that out to try to make your boss /uncle/100 millionaire not look like a dipshit. At 38:27, Bill is getting paid by Crown Royal to talk about great calls. This is the great call he offers.
That's good. I think that's good enough to carry the great call of the week.
Nothing. At 39:08, you think Bill realizes that there's a chance Sal is talking about him with this comment?
This is going to sound douchey, but when you're not hurting for money, it's such an ego thing. So why would you bet the Chiefs if the Niners are up 10? You're like, nah, I picked the right game. I'm good at gambling, and I don't need this money.
Kind of on the nose.
Yes.
At 40 minutes and 26 seconds, snort. Matt, 41 minutes in, this is something that we discussed with some of our buddies at great length. It's about whether or not Shakira or J-Lo won the Super Bowl halftime show.
I scored at Shakira 115, 112.
Who'd you have, Matt?
Shakira, but it was close to a knockout. We had some discussion, Chris. One of the most impressive things about Shakira, not that J-Lo isn't extremely attractive, but that Shakira does not appear to be as old as, not that she's old, but she certainly looks younger than she is. I think she's like 43.
Wow.
Yeah.
Matt, here's Bill's reasoning for why Shakira won.
I thought it was a 10-8 round when they did when they turned their backs and shook their butts together. I thought that was like a knockout of J-Lo.
At 41:56, Matt, Bill talks about what he needs from a halftime show. Before we get to Bill's thoughts, what are the ingredients you want from a quality Super Bowl halftime show?
Music.
How long should the songs be?
Relatively short.
A montage, no song lasts for longer than a minute.
In addition to the songs, should there be any sort of physical activity accompanying the songs?
Probably dancing.
There's just incredible dance numbers.
Any particular body part you would like to see shaken during the dance numbers?
I feel like if other than ass, anything else would seem weird.
I think Bill is in 100% agreement with you.
Shaking.
Matt, you know how many MVPs the NFL names each season?
Well, I think by definition only one.
Only a single player can be the most valuable.
Right.
I think your math might be off. Here, have a listen at 42:29.
So we talk about the MVPs of the season, other than Mahomes.
Other than Mahomes, who was not the MVP of the season. He was, as Bill eventually points out, the MVP of the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson, as Bill again eventually points out, was the MVP of the NFL 2019-2020 season. I don't know how you can preface the comment by suggesting there was more than one MVP in a season. At 42:47, my favorite recent trend has to do with a child's game where you stack wooden rectangles.
For the Jenga stack that he knocked down.
Ryan Fitzpatrick did this intentionally.
Right.
He won the game intentionally. You don't intentionally knock the Jenga stack down.
Right. The game is designed so that you continue to play and the stack stays
Yes.
up. You're not a success if you knock it down. It's not mousetrap. At 42:54, this is everything Ryan Fitzpatrick changed.
And the Chiefs only had to play 3 games instead of 4. The Pats go out early. All of it goes through.
Ryan Fitzpatrick and his Dolphins beat the Patriots, and it changed the seeding in the AFC for playoff purposes. And then, as a result, all of it, no idea what it is, goes through something.
Yes.
47:09. 3 things says either, also, whatever.
Either they're going to bring Tannehill back or go get another quarterback or whatever.
Either you're going to have Tannehill back or you're going to get another quarterback or whatever.
Either way.
At 49:42, terrible laughter. Also scary, slow down. At 53:46, a Joe Bluth nominee.
So how do you handle the XFL? I have a couple questions.
At 55:08, a Joe Bluth nominee.
Yeah. I'll take all his advice and flip it the other way.
At 57:13, he's talking about giving pink eye to Joe Buck. Bill then has some thoughts at 57:54, which may be jokes or may not be jokes, about how pink eye is transmitted.
Can't you only get pink eye from some sort of sex fluid thing? I thought that was the only way to get
What?
it.
See, Bill comes around when he says, I'm trying to open the door.
So you think he was joking?
I was trying to open the door if that you had a sex
I
mishap.
Matt, I guess the pessimistic or cynical version is that he decided he was joking after he realized he had no idea.
But even
how
if
to
he
get
was
pink eye.
joking, Chris, I mean, would you have to ejaculate in somebody's eye?
Maybe he just licked their eyeball. I mean, I guess that's not really a
That's not
sex
sex.
fluid. No.
I mean, maybe that's not technical sex.
Oh, I see. Right. At 103:38, Matt, remember when we were kids and we used to go watch the Super Bowl with our friends in the back house?
And they hung out in the back house.
This guy needs more money. Definitely. He needs more. He's got 2 fucking houses, the one house and then the back house where you can just go fuck around.
That's where all his TVs and his Peloton are.
At 104:58, these thing
but he's really into these Instagram RIP thing.
It should be these things. At 105.10, bad talk.
It's the safest post you can put.
The safest post you can put where? I mean, I guess the context is the safest post you can put on Instagram.
Maybe it was a golf thing and he meant to say putt.
At 105.59, this swallow.
And then a couple people had.
At 107.25, a Joe Bluth nominee.
I was like, that's it?
At 109.39, this swallow.
Everything the Lakers did. Then the game starts.
Except
at 109.56, this swallow.
Because it's so happy.
At 113.02,
Los Angeles Wildcats.
I feel like there used to be this show on PBS.
Wildcrats?
Yeah.
It's called Wildcrats.
Yeah, wow.
Oh, you're talking about Wildcrats on PBS Kids.
Yes.
At 113.21, this snort. We'll be back after this. Hey, you want to go out with me? No, thank you. Yeah, I didn't want to go out with you either.
It's more like, hey, it would be so great if we made out, right? Haha, that's hilarious. Yeah, I was totally joking. Matt, 8th grade.
Sure, 8th grade.
What was via note?
We use Anchor to make the Bill Simmons podcast.
We really love it.
It's free.
Costs nothing.
Anchor allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. You don't need extra software.
We are idiots, Chris, and we can figure it out.
Once you create the podcast, Anchor will distribute it for you.
It can be heard on Spotify, Apple, all the major podcast players. Not Luminary, though.
Sorry, Luminary. You can even make money.
Your coffers will be full.
Hopefully you have a pretty small coffer. Everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started podcasting right now. Matt, the second podcast of the week was the most schizophrenic of the three, involving Brian Koppelman talking about the Knicks, then Wesley Morris talking about Oscars shit, and then Claire Danes talking about everything she always talks about, but also the final season of her show Homeland. At 1 minute, 14 seconds in, possibly an edit.
Pretty excited about that one as well. Hey, one more thing.
Bad edit. Bad job, Kyle. Bad job. Pearl Jam at 2 minutes and 9 seconds. 2:35, while introducing Koppelman, Bill swallows.
Billions, as well as...
At 2:55, Matt, when I think of saviors, the way I like to think they're being displayed is always this.
And now there's another savior being dangled, Masai Ujiri.
Dangling saviors. At 3:25, this laugh. Very sinister, slowed down. At 4:31, Matt, it almost sounded like this was going to be a theme for the episode, but this is the only other time I heard it.
While kind of dangling out.
At 6:20, this swallow.
We're on now our third decade of...
At 1946, Matt, it's one thing when Bill thinks Ben Affleck took the Batman gig because he just wanted to see how hot his hand truly was.
I'm going to take my kids to this Batman movie and they're just going to be impressed. And that's my 19-0. And I wrote this.
But what's even more impressive is when Ben Affleck confirmed it.
And then he admitted that was why he did it.
Bill is great. 20 minutes and 58 seconds into the second pod. Try to figure out what this word is.
A genuinely impressive guy.
Genuine Lynn.
Genuinely impressive.
Matt, at 21:38, make a joke about this mispronunciation.
If you put that guy in charge of the Knicks?
Who is in charge of the Knicks? The problem with Bill all week was really, it sounded like he wanted to say everything so badly and so quickly that he didn't bother saying it so completely. At 22:28, this swallow.
If he really thinks he might have a chance, I think he would.
At 22:39, a swallow followed by check boxes.
And check as many boxes as possible, no meddling boxes as possible.
At first, it sounds like he's going to say something that might make sense. Check as many boxes as possible. But it turns out it's a specific kind of box, the no meddling box, and that there are many no meddling boxes, and he's going to check as many no meddling boxes as possible. I don't know if there are different types of meddling, but it appears that there are a number of different options for him to check those boxes. At 23:47, Los Angeles is home to the Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers.
Don't forget the Wildcrats.
What sport do the Wildcrats play? We know the Clippers and Lakers play basketball, which makes them basketball teams. That's basketball teams.
Oh, God, 2 basketball city now.
They are not basketballs. They are basketball teams. At 27:54, unnecessary article.
Think about it with the John Morant.
Full name.
Like Mr. T. At 3102, is this an edit or just a weird inhale?
Send in 1 second. Chances are you've heard of Salesforce.
No, I think it's an edit.
At 3108, 6 seconds later. Edit?
Brings companies and customers together. How does it work? Well,
Oh, that's definitely an edit.
It sounds like he failed to clear his throat or something. By the way, these last two and this one all in the Salesforce ad. At 3127, a swallow during an ad.
view of each of your...
At 3253, this Joe Bluth nominee.
They're like huge favorites.
At 3928, Bill is trying to figure out who it was who won the Oscar for Best Actor the year Joaquin Phoenix was in The Master. Trust me when I say that, because when you listen to what he says, you'll have no idea.
Do you remember who he lost to The Master?
Who he lost to The Master. He didn't lose anyone to that movie. At some point, contributor Nick points out, holy shit, Wesley. In my opinion, holy shit, Wesley starts here. At 4937,
He did this already!
this guy is starting to get a little unhinged.
He did this already.
At 5027, this noise.
I don't know.
It was like an alien was trying to emerge from his chest.
Or his throat. At 5123, good host Bill interrupts.
It'll be the one that he
Before we
gets all
go.
these things for.
It'll be the one that before we go. At about 5130, Matt, Bill goes into his worst 8 movies of the year. The worst 8 movies in descending order are Richard Jewell, The Haunting of Sharon Tate, Rocket Man, Just Mercy, Intruder, Ma, Late Night, and Serenity. He then points out that the number 8 worst movie, Richard Jewell, is actually a really good movie.
It's a really good movie.
But
It just has a bad factual error.
Right.
completely submarine by the dumbest movie decision of the year.
He then says number 5 isn't the 5th worst. It's the 5th most disappointing.
This isn't the 5th worst movie of the year.
Oh no.
But I was so disappointed in it that I'm putting it number 5.
He says number 2, Late Night, was not the worst, but he was very disappointed in it.
So if I'm judging this by not what's the worst movie as much as how disappointed I was in the execution of the movie.
It's also
This
a
is my
world you
second
kind of
worst.
know.
Just to get the math right. Number 1, worst, Serenity.
Right.
Number 2, not worst, but very disappointing, Late Night. 3, Ma. 4, Intruder. Just Mercy comes in at 5th on the most disappointing list, but is listed with the worst movies.
Right.
Then Rocket Man, then Haunting of Sharon Tate, then a really good movie listed as 8 worst. Would you like to hear all the things Bill and his guests found delicious?
Love to.
Here it goes.
30 seconds. These first what?
Right.
In a hotel room. I'm in New York. I'm with my wife. Can't, but not like. But and
Because
both. But that was intense.
At 55:49, Bill is not only adding extra words, he's adding extra sounds.
Maybe he scaled it back.
He really goes out of his way to say he scaled it back.
Like a Bacta tank.
Oh, yes. Very good. I was thinking of Bactine.
Okay. At 5719, Wesley Morris continues to slowly descend into madness.
Oh,
He sells his house.
Oh, this movie is so bad.
It's so bad.
It seems like it's a put on.
Oh,
Sells his house. Oh, this movie is so bad. It's so bad.
At 58:53, Bill, guttural utterances.
My house and
yeah, yep.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wesley knew.
Wesley, 100% on board with that. 5906, Wesley found it funny. Run for your life. You know a little bit about police work. I know a little bit about police work. Bill makes this statement in support of, I think, Simply Safe at 102.59. See if the math checks out for you.
Your local police department probably receives 100 calls a night from burglar alarms and usually
100 calls a night just from burglar alarms.
I mean, maybe if you live in like Manhattan.
I checked to see my local police department's number of police officers. Including the chief, it has 16. That means that more than likely there are 2, maybe 3 squads of 3, maybe 4. Can you imagine a 4-man squad doing the midnight shift getting 100 calls for burglary? I can't even imagine them getting 20 calls.
Period.
They would be,
and that includes like cats in a tree.
DUIs, man is drunk, hurt feelings. As contributor Kyle points out, Bill then immediately tries to use English, does not do it right.
and for a normal burglary alarm. Burglary. Can you say burglary, Kyle? Keep that in. Burglary.
Contributor Nick is convinced that this is left in to troll the Bill Simmons podcast. Almost certainly not. This has to be a function of Bill Simmons' grandiosity. That being said, the fact that he cannot pronounce burglary in a commercial about burglar alarms, they are not burglary alarms, Matt. They are burglar alarms, is so somehow insightful to the heart of his personality. At 104.44, Bill softens when discussing anything with Claire Danes.
I think it was just like played on a loop on MTV.
Yeah.
The Affirmation Hour with Bill Simmons and guest Claire Danes. Matt, how many years in a decade?
10.
I'm not sure that's really how it works. Listen at 104.58.
It seems like there's one show every year like that because the next decade it was Friday Night Lights.
There's one show every year. Let me move 10 years hence and give you a single example.
He was talking about 2009.
Matt, did you know, in addition to being a 100 millionaire, Bill is a big shot in the entertainment industry?
That's what I've heard.
At 114.55, that's what Claire Danes heard as well.
So I'm producing this movie, this documentary for HBO that's finished now, that Alex Winter did.
Oh.
She sounds impressed.
Oh.
Here's my problem with that. Is he producing it if it's done? It sounds like he produced it.
Yes.
Matt, it turns out that what he's producing is a show about child actors. Well, it's not what you think in some way or another. This is at 1:15:11.
But not like
That's funny.
the stereotypical way of the way you would think.
Stereotypical way of the way you'd think. So regardless of the way you think, it's not what people would stereotype you to think about. I'm not sure. Matt, reconcile means, for example, to cause to exist in harmony, to make or show to be compatible. Bill does not seem to understand that because this is what he says at 1:29:40.
It was interesting. The show after that season had to reconcile. All right, what do we do with this? Because
according to Bill, he is reconciling. All right, what do we do with this? With no example given. At 1:39:16, evidence.
real video evidence to give.
We'll be back after this. I think what it actually is something to do with when a group of squirrels get together and they're about to unleash some shit on another squirrel. And they're like, are you guys ready to go get that squirrel? They're like, it's nut crunching time. And then it makes sense in squirrel language because nuts and squirrels.
Yeah, squirrels they find nuts to be very important. Matt, in the third podcast of the week, I'm already tired.
Yes.
2 hours, 12 minutes, and 33 seconds. It's the mega whatever pod for NBA trade deadline with Russillo, Pearl Jam at 1:50. At 6:57, not sure.
You can set him a screen, and he's really good at, he can move up that, do a little pop or whatever.
So here are the number of plays he can execute on the NBA floor. A little pop.
Whatever.
Anything else. At 8:30, laughter.
Is there any chance?
$100 million.
More.
Is there any chance? All right, just
Statistically speaking, this is incorrect at 9:39.
We just got a 50-game sample size of Russell.
Now, what you got was a 50-game sample.
Right.
The sample size was 50 games. You didn't get a 50-game sample size.
You got one sample size.
11:51, our favorite children's game. No, it's not Mousetrap.
So the way they've played this little Jenga stack they've built.
I know he does this a lot, but it just never ceases to amaze you when he gets this like one, I guess what he would refer to as an analogy or something like that in his head. And then for like 2 weeks, you just get slammed with Jenga stacks.
The problem is you don't build a stack in Jenga. You dismantle a stack in Jenga.
Like he's using Jenga stack independent of the game. He doesn't care about how you play the game. It's just like, well, it's a stack. What are other things I stack? Jenga.
Yes. You are a man of great faith, deep faith, and you have closely held beliefs. If you were to measure your belief, what metric would you use?
You know, I never really thought about it, Chris.
Well, would you use
maybe
like kilograms, ounces,
pounds?
Pounds. Okay. You're wrong. At 15:42, Matt, clearly belief is measured in length.
Did you believe 1 inch of that?
No.
How many inches would you have to believe for you to be convinced? Is there a width to belief? It's like when he was talking last week about the length went sideways. 17:32. Yeah.
But if you're on Denver,
did he just?
Yeah.
I think he just developed either an accent or a different speech impediment because he means you're. 21-54, extra H's.
It's pretty high level perimeter D.
25.
I don't think it's extra H's. It's like CH.
I think what happens is he gets a big old pool of spit in the back of his throat.
But only on H's.
Maybe that's like the H comes from the back of your mouth or something. And then it has to emerge from the spit pool and it bubbles through. 25-25, terrifying laughter. Now, Matt, here is some good quality audio podcasting. It's the first time we hear this at 25-36. Remember, this is the trade deadline pod.
Right.
So for those of you tuning in to a live video feed or listening later to an audio feed taken from a live video feed, this is what you got to hear.
Oh, we got to trade.
We got to trade.
Just said the Clippers, Knicks, and Wizards have agreed with three-team trade Marcus Morris and Isaiah Thomas with the Clippers.
Oh.
Rome Robinson will join the Wizards. Mo Harkless in the 2021 from the Knicks.
Okay.
All right, so what that is, Matt, to recap, is about 15 seconds of someone off mic announcing what the trade is, Bill briefly reacting, then continuing to listen to an unmiked person read what the trade is. That is $100 million.
Why not just give this guy a mic? Spotify.
Or maybe you
what
edit
have we
around
done?
it. I'm boiling over with rage and jealousy. At 26:55, who cares what you say, Russillo? Bill has something to say.
Clint Capella in certain spells.
So you're saying Clint Capella?
Oops, don't really care.
Well, no, actually, that's not what I'm saying, Bill. If you let me finish my goddamn thought.
All right, now, Matt, when you're doing an audio podcast or some performance designed for audio-only consumption, think about the fact that your audience might not be able to see the actions you're performing. Bill does not think. 28-10.
You don't want to go backwards. You don't want to keep your hands up like this.
Yeah, that's Bill showing an example of what someone might do. It was hard to see when I was listening to this. At 28:58, bad cash once again.
Including the gunslinger's cachet.
At 29:13, if you don't have a mic, Sean, I guess, we can't hear you.
Wait, we got to talk about what Houston did. Sorry, Sean, you. Houston.
But we are sorry.
Now, Matt, usually the NBA draft is broken into rounds. First round, second round.
Yeah, it's the only two.
Well, this year they're going to do something a little different.
We're just throwing away first pound pick.
Well, that's because that's the measurement I use to weigh my faith.
In pounds? I thought it was in British sterling pounds. How much is that pick worth, governor? At 32:42, see if you can figure out when the sentence ends.
And I couldn't figure out the contracts because I like that he's an expiring next year.
I couldn't figure out how the contracts.
I just love when Bill is so excited to get something out that he doesn't even bother to say a sentence.
At 33:08, more English.
Two of the people's loyalties is going to surpass the third person.
Two of the people's loyalties is going to surpass the third person.
Not their loyalties, just them. So it's like, here it is. There's a race. There are three guys in the race.
Coming down the back stretch.
Two of the people have loyalties.
In the
Not
race?
sure what they are, but they have them.
Yes.
Those loyalties escape from the people and pass the third person. Not his loyalty,
Yes, sir.
just him.
Yes. At 36:35, this swallow.
They had 3 firsts last year. None of them played more than.
At 36:44, what were you going to say, Ryan?
Go, oh my gosh, this is great. And then you're
Speaking
thinking,
of the Celtics.
Speaking of the Celtics, that's what this fucking podcast should be called.
Yes.
Speaking of the Celtics. At 37:45, another swallow.
Their YouTube channel. Yeah.
At 40 minutes and 10 seconds, this laughter.
I have notes. You want to look at some?
Not a laugh, Chris. It's a wheeze.
Daddy, he's going to hurt me. It turns out Bill, even though he's so shy and retiring, so humble, does want to make a certain point here at 41:11.
This is where I'm glad I'm here.
This is where I'm glad I'm here on the Bill Simmons podcast. Coincidentally,
By the
I
way,
am Bill Simmons.
Apparently, this is where I'm glad I'm here. So it's a place and not a unit of time.
But actually, the reason he's glad he's there, Matt, is this.
Because this is one of the few things I'm really good at.
Bill, you had me at you believing there was something you were really good at. Now, Matt, if you're trying to figure out what the superlative of a dessert treat is, you might think it's cakeist, but you're wrong at 42:26.
As one of the 3 pious big guys.
These were the 3 pious paid guys. Maybe he was trying to say they were the most religious or most pious. Speaking of food, another bad turn of phrase at 43:06.
There's no recipe to him helping an actual playoff team.
So this is the way the cookbook works. There's a guy who's on an NBA team.
Right.
The guy is trying to figure out how he can contribute to the team. So he looks up the recipe to him helping. At 44:49, rhyme or reason?
There doesn't seem any rhyme or reason to the.
He means to be any rhyme. There's no fucking verb in that clause. At 45:41, a Joe Bluth nominee.
Where's Kevin Love?
At 45:56.
And they basically doubled down and were like, ah.
Has he given up? Or did I miss something? Maybe I'm having a stroke. At 47:27, Matt, I wrote down AAHOH.
Would have been like, ah.
That's good.
Matt, at 47:37, Bill wants to make this point, but he's thinking too fast for his own mouth.
And now you have this guy who's basically Nick Batum clogging up here. It's too bad.
Well, it could be clogging the lane. It could be that this guy is Nick Batum, who often clogs the toilet. Maybe Nick Batum is a notoriously huge pooper.
Yes. Maybe the length of his poops have gone sideways. At 49:42, remember, if you want to be heard on a podcast, talking to a microphone.
Jackson, is that right? Is that how this netted out?
Yeah, Kevin tweeted basically that they couldn't agree on the Gallo deal because
Kevin Costner?
Kevin Costner tweeted about it.
yeah, like they couldn't agree on the right.
At 53:57, it doesn't matter what you say, Ryan.
And you look at
And they
Miles
have heat
is
check
always
guys
a little
in the right spots.
Yeah.
We'll never know what he wanted us to look at. At 54:51, sniff.
And Bam's
The problem is
Turn your head.
he either does the wrong thing into the mic or he does the wrong thing off the mic. Speak into a microphone, don't sniff into a microphone. At 56:02, interruption.
I felt like he became somebody who, like, as a 3-point shooter.
Trade?
It's not a trade, but speaking of old guys, Mark Stein said the Lakers are expected to give free agent J.R. Smith a post-trade deadline audition and remain the favorites to sign Darren Collins.
Oh, congratulations.
Great. Another unmiked individual talking about
An
something.
interruption that was totally useless because nobody could hear it.
At 57:15, you got to pick. It's either one or the other.
Send him home packing.
You can either send someone home or you can send someone packing. But if you send them home packing, you can't be here. Go back to where you live and then put your stuff in a suitcase. There.
There, where it is anyway.
At 57:34, the easy joke, Matt, is must be the new math.
I mean, I understand it because I know the math has moved a certain way and who knows.
I feel like math is one of those f***ing constants.
Yep, never changes.
You get fudge it here or there, right? At 106:42, what was that you were going to say, Ryan?
What's Philly like 9-18
Weirdly,
on the road
Memphis.
I think what happens is Ryan is talking and Bill is looking at something off camera and then just doesn't give a shit that Ryan hasn't stopped.
I think he's looking at
talking.
He's looking at an iPad, Matt.
Yeah.
I interrupted you to say that. At 106:55, I think he's discussing Donald.
You go down the line.
Maybe he's Pittsburgh. Another check at 107:04.
First of all, the first check mark on the box is
it the first check mark on the box is suggesting that box has multiple check marks, or is it the first check mark on the boxes? There's a bunch of boxes.
Only one check mark.
Yes.
Well,
Either
I
way.
guess not. It's just the first one.
Yeah, but there's the opportunity for more.
Right.
At 144:54, something can continue, something can go. Bill thinks it can do both.
I don't see this Memphis thing continuing to go.
At 147:20, this?
If he does this and plants himself, he's getting the ball.
What is this? I'm listening. I don't know what it is.
Well, he's got to do that, and then he has to plant himself.
How many cars do you need to carry around $250 million? It probably would fill your whole back house.
Yeah.
At 148:04, you remember Ja Morant's full name, Matt?
The Ja.
Very good. So does Bill.
The Ja was doing really well.
I can't believe it. It's
The Ja.
fucked up. At 150:25, this sound
goes
And then
in.
it's like, oh.
kind of sexy. Bill the Panther Simmons
Goes
And then
in.
it's like,
at 153:40, sniff. At 155:17, another interruption.
Play here. I don't know the answer to that. I'm
Jim
sure
Rice
that'll
said
come out.
yesterday, he was like, Mook,
Jesus, how many times has this guy interrupted people?
Ryan doesn't know the answer, therefore, Bill, fuck it. I'm moving on.
Here we go. 157:21. It turns out there is a specific way you can reach a terrible decision.
the all-time poor planning of 7 different things leading to an equally terrible decision.
Now, I'd like everyone here to consider, historically speaking, every single time there has ever been different things leading to a terrible decision. Where does this rank?
Well, it's definitely the best of the decade.
At 204:43, interruption.
It's when you're like, hey, this guy kind of sucks.
And that team was like
And-
the
Matt, if you want some sort of insight into Bill's true financial picture, he makes this point at 205.59 about fixing up the worst-looking house in a decent neighborhood.
The worst house on the best block. And it's like, man, if somebody buys that house and makes it nice, that's going to be like a $12 million house.
The fixed-up house in a nice neighborhood is now worth $12 million.
So you paid like $2
million,
right? And then you fixed it up.
Maybe put
new
6
kitchen.
or 7 million into it.
Now it's worth 12.
Wow, that's a great return on investment.
If you have 7 or 8 or $9 million,
We
like
could all
Bill
relate.
does.
At 209.54, this is something I can relate to.
Nobody wants to hear Boston fans whine about it.
He's made an entire career about it. As contributor Kyle points out, here's cousin Kyle off mic at 210.35.
Thanks to Kyle. And
at 210.48, during an ad read, Bill makes this botch and then realizes he's promoting something that has already occurred.
Players in both GTA Online and Red Dead Online before starting January 30th, which I'm pretty sure happened like a week ago.
At 211.05, Cache.
Gunslingers Cache.
How have they not corrected him on that one?
At 211.24.
Pepsi wants to usher in the new decade a bit differently.
The new decade a bit differently. Did he just become a New Zealander? Maybe it was, Zane showing up.
Zane Smith or whatever his name is.
Possibly Lowe.
Zane Lowe, yeah.
This is one of the few things I'm really good at.
That list includes Mousetrap, Jenga, possibly Chutes and Ladders, or its inferior version, Candyland.
I dominate at Operation. It's the Bill Simmons podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Matt.
Cheetah speed and lizard glide, falcon flight and lion pride. Gonna go wild, wild, Chris. Gonna go wild, 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 Chris. Gonna go wild, wild, Chris. Gonna go wild, 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 Chris. Go wild, 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 Chris.
The problem with Mousetrap is, Matt, it's a game of a little bitty plastic parts that you spend 45 minutes fucking setting up, and then you just do this stupid bullshit where the little people go around the board, and then sometimes they set off the mousetrap, but mostly it fails to fucking work. It's pointless. The whole point is setting it up. The gameplay sucks shit.
I did not expect you to have such a serious opinion about this.
Have you ever played it?
Yeah. We currently prefer Candyland, though.
Candyland is like if you had Mousetrap without all the bullshit. It's just like, fine, spin or whatever, go to the next color, it's over. Candyland is like beginners Chutes and Ladders. And then Mousetrap is like...
you're saying that Chutes and Ladders is more difficult to play?
Because of the chutes and the ladders.
Yeah, but Candyland has like the...
Well, how many chutes does Candyland have?
There's like one.
So Candyland is the equivalent of chute and ladder.
But there are also ladders because you can pull the card that gets you to like the lollipop.
Fine. This is what fucking Mousetrap is like. Matt, it's like if you're playing Candyland on a bed in a hotel room and you're masturbating with Andy Reid at the same time.
This is going to go at the end.
Claire Danes, solid. She's great. Always wondered if she herself suffers from mental illness based on the number of characters she's played who have mental illness, but man, big Claire Danes fan.
Couldn't it be the opposite, that she suffers from it, like she became
you think
too in character?
She caught it from them? I don't know.
Maybe she caught it weird. Via the pink eye.
Sexual fluid mental illness transfer, or possibly just someone farted mental illness into her pillow.
That sounds like some holistic shit.
I did it.
You could just fart the mental illness out. Yeah. And then, it's like a holistic thing.
It doesn't sound like holism. Matt, it sounds like fucking medieval medicine. Well, we got two options. Number one, get the leech. Number two, you'll have to express your gaseous humors. So here's a pot full of beans.
No, it's like this. It's like those idiots who say, well, you have a bunch of bad vibes and you just have to like flush them out. But the way they get flushed out is through farts. But then somebody else can catch them. Hence, pink eye.
4 seconds in.
Wait, I thought you were going to make a point.
I was going to talk about a girl I dated.
Oh, yeah.
Some people compared to Claire Danes when I was younger.
Oh, well, don't care.
Yeah,
I thought it was about a girl you dated farting.
No, we would not date any longer.